So good evening, Dina. Today we have Dina Cezina, who is a Buteyko expert, and she has a fascinating story, a healing story of her own. So Dina, welcome, and please tell us how everything has started, your own journey.
Thank you, Anat, for having me. I'm
Pleasure.
very honored to be here.
My pleasure.
Well, how did it start? My main issue, if you could call that, is asthma at that time. But my asthma started in childhood. I had asthma, but only whenever I had a bad cough. So I'd say it's mild, and it just comes up whenever I had a really bad cough, which is not very often. But then in 2012, end of 2012, it got really bad that almost every month I had a bad cough, which triggered my asthma, and I needed antibiotics. And I couldn't breathe. I was hunched over. I had my scarf on top of my head because for some reason, now I know why, but at that time I didn't know why it would help. It felt better that way. And I think what got me into that was a progression of things. I was at that time a very a perfectionist. I have a big family, so I have 8 children, and the two combined, being a perfectionist and having a big family, is very difficult because nothing ever happens as they should. And I wanted, I demanded a lot of myself. So the stress was there. And then we moved countries. 2006, we moved to New Zealand from the Philippines. And then, so again, that's another stress, adapting to the new environment. And so, stressor after stressor. And then 2011, so 2 years before that, I had an accident. I bumped my head on my way down on a sled. I dove into another person with a sled. And so and then the following year, so early 2012, the carpets were changed in the house, and there was a really chemical smell. I don't know what they used, but I was exposed to chemicals. So you see so many stressors,
right.
Stressors, emotional stress, plus the physical stress, plus the chemical stress. So that was the end of 2012. That was when my health really took a nosedive, and I was getting infection after infection. I think might have started October or November, and every month I had a cough.
So what was the diagnosis? What was the diagnosis?
They didn't. I don't know about the cough. They just gave me antibiotics. They didn't give me a diagnosis. But because it was triggering my asthma, so of course they also gave me asthma medications. I was on steroids. I was on an inhaler, and antihistamines plus a nasal spray. So I had all that.
So can you describe a day in your life back then? How was it? And also, if I may ask, what was the emotional baggage that came on top of the physical condition? You had asthma, and
yes.
And also
I had asthma. I was also not sleeping well. I had insomnia. There was some anxiety happening, which I wasn't sure where it was coming from, because there was really nothing that by then I wasn't worried about anything. There was nothing I was afraid of. But the anxiety was around, and I wasn't sure what that was. There was fear because of my condition, and thinking, oh, my children were very young. What's going to happen to them if something happens to me? Yeah. So that fear, plus I couldn't breathe, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn to. I'd go to my doctor, and then they just give me more medication. And I was on maximum dose of my medication. So I thought, what's going to happen if I still get an attack, even with this maximum dose? I mean, what would happen then?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, do you remember a dark night of the soul a time that you felt that you hit rock bottom, that you were desperate?
For my health, yes. Well, what happened then was, so I had that infections, and then I went back to the Philippines. That was in April. So it started in November the previous year, 2012, April 2013. I went back home to visit my parents. And in that visit, I was hospitalized twice. I don't know, maybe it's the increase in pollution and it was the food I was eating. I don't know, but I was hospitalized because I couldn't breathe. Went to the hospital late evening. I think I was released probably the next day or 2 days after. And then that night, after the day of my release, my discharge, I was in the hospital again because I had another asthma attack. So that time I was very afraid. And I had to delay going back because I was in hospital. And eventually when we were going back to New Zealand, I had my 7-year-old son with me. The fear of what if something happens to me on the plane? What about my son? What about me and my family back in New Zealand? And really, fear was really there. And that, I think, pushed me to find something else. So when I got to New Zealand, I was looking around. I went to another GP because my GP just kept on giving me medication. So I asked around and somebody recommended this other GP who I went to for a second opinion. And he was very good. He said, "You've got a breathing problem. Go do this." So he gave me the details for a Buteyko course. Do this and and then they tell me how you are. I'll see you in 6 months or something like that.
So what was the turning point? When this was the shift in your journey?
Yes, that was the beginning of the shift. The shift was not just overnight, but that was already, I feel like that was the shift, the beginning of the shift, because then I did the course. Oh my goodness. Within the first week, I had 4 medications, right? I was off my Ventolin, I was off my antihistamines, and I was off my nasal spray
Within a
the
week.
first week.
Within 1 week.
Within 1 week. But I still had my steroids, and I would still have the difficulty breathing, but not anymore not to the point where I feel like I needed a Ventolin, right? But I could still feel that there's inflammation, the fuzziness. It's not very comfortable to breathe still. But I was so impressed, and so I did the course. And after the course, maybe another 9 months of trying with my doctor's help to reduce my steroid inhaler. And it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It was a back and forth. Again, like I keep on saying, healing is not linear. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. And so I think by January the following year, which was 9 months from the time I did Buteyko, I was finally very successful in taking off my steroid inhaler. And since then, it's been 7 years of not having any asthma medication at all.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So, what happened to the insomnia? And
oh yes. So maybe a few months after I did the course, because then I was, breathing much better. I realized, I'm sleeping much better, and also I don't have the anxiety. I don't feel the anxiety anymore. I didn't realize it immediately, but after a few months, I realized those were not my problems anymore, and I wasn't always tired anymore. I used to be very tired. I couldn't get myself off the bed sometimes, and
like a chronic fatigue.
Yes, like chronic fatigue. I'd be active during the day, and then maybe at night I'll just sit and read a book before dinner, and then I won't wake up anymore. My kids will wake me up, "Mom, it's time for dinner." And I open my eyes, yes, and then fall asleep. I really couldn't get myself off the bed. So that also went away. And
so within 9 months, months. Since you started the Buteiko method,
Yes.
you felt that you are completely healed?
How would I say? Completely of my symptoms, but I still felt like there was underneath whatever the root cause of what caused my condition, my symptoms and condition. I just still felt that there was something that I needed to address, which I wasn't sure what it was. And then the following year, during a routine blood test, my doctor discovered that I had a thyroid issue as well. But by then I was okay with my asthma and everything, but found out I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune condition. Then reading up on it, I read all the symptoms. I thought, oh my goodness, the symptoms that I had before, the tiredness and, you know, the weight gain and all those different things were all related to Hashimoto's, but the breathing had helped them already. Okay, by the time I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, a lot of the symptoms that were related to Hashimoto's were gone, but I still had the antibodies. So technically speaking, I was still in the autoimmune condition.
But without the symptoms.
Yes, without the symptoms, and if ever there are symptoms, I think the only symptom that was coming was some urticaria, so hives coming out at that time. And so,
which I think is it's another autoimmune issue, no?
Yes, although it went away after a while, because what happened, when I found out that I had Hashimoto's, so I was already thinking, I was already enabled, and before I used to go and ask the doctor and just rely on what the doctor would say. Because of my experience with Buteiko, I realized I was empowered. I realized I could do a lot of things. I could help myself. What I did,
you claimed your power back.
Yes, I did.
Instead of spreading it to experts and then going like a beggar and collecting it back.
Yes, so then I was empowered. So what I did was I researched. I took like a month or two of really just researching and saying. And so the next thing I did was to clean up my diet. So I went on a diet, an autoimmune protocol diet, and that helped even more. So the occasional fibromyalgia, which is the pains in your muscles and joints that would come, that cleared up.
So can you share which diet changes you have made?
It's called, I stopped eating gluten, dairy, grains, which is difficult for me because I'm a rice eater, and legumes. Legumes, it's a lot because it's called the AIP, autoimmune.
Yeah, I know, but what is left to eat?
So all I was and then some vegetables I couldn't even have. I can't have potatoes, and so nightshades I can have potatoes in chilies and yeah. So what I was eating was meat and green leafy vegetables, sweet potatoes, carrots, you know, the pumpkins. So there's still a lot to eat, but yeah, quite limited.
How about fruit?
Yes, fruit is okay. So you can have fruit.
It can be inflammatory because of the fructose.
The fructose. Although because you eat the fruit whole, meaning you eat it with the fiber as well. So eating it as a whole fruit helps your body handle the fructose and all that. And you don't eat too much of it, maybe 1 or 2 a day. So you don't, not as much. And then you're supposed to stay on it for only one month, 30 days, and then try to reintroduce just to help your body heal and calm down.
To heal the lining of the gut.
Yes. And bring the inflammation down.
Many times when you restrain yourself of food, the body becomes very sensitive later when you reintroduce it. It becomes very
reactive.
Reactive.
Yeah.
It is. I always I think it strengthens you in the beginning, but in the long run, this method might weaken you because then you become very, very sensitive and reactive to, like a baby. You have to treat the body, to teach it to eat new stuff again.
I suppose that's why they only recommend to do it for 30 days and then start reintroducing and trying it out. But the thing with me is because I was feeling so good and I was afraid to reintroduce because then it will destabilize my, that I was feeling so good, no inflammation. And so I stayed on it for 3 years. I stayed on that diet for 3 years. And then after that, I found the strength to try because I'm strong enough, I guess, to face it and then reintroduce one at a time. And now I can almost eat everything. Of course, I still try to avoid gluten, but I do eat gluten once in a while. But I'm very selective of if it's worth it or not. It's a treat for me and very rare.
No, so they say that gluten is a major thing, especially for blood type O.
Yes, yes.
Can I ask you, let's go back again to Buteco. So the major experience was the Buteco, which made the transformation in your life. But what has changed since then? Can you share how your relationship with pain and this ease and discomfort has changed? For example, if now, God forbid, you will catch something, would your response to it would be more calm, less frightened? Do you feel that you have more power now to? I am curious about your relationship with pain and disease and chronic condition.
Well, the difference is I was in medical school for 5 years, so I'm quite familiar with medicine and health. I'm not a doctor. I left after 5 years. So I've always been very calm with anything because if I have something, I'll go, what is it? And then I'll decide on what to do. But it's usually medical based. I will decide when to go to the doctor or not and things like that. But of course, it's always go to the doctor in the end if I'm not able to self-treat with vitamin C. It was only vitamin C that I used to do. And pain for me then, I had a very high tolerance to pain. And for me, I'm not afraid of pain. But what I see that's different now is this. I am more, how do you say, mindful of pain because it's more, the shift happened in terms of my mindset. Before it's pain, okay, it's more stoic, I think. There's pain, okay, I'll deal with it. And if I can't fix it, I'll deal with it and I'll suffer it, which I believe that pain in itself has some good things in it. But the way I look at it now is this. Pain is a message from our body. So I listen. When I have pain, I listen. And then with everything that I've learned since my healing journey, I can better able to make choices. And what do I do with this pain? Not anymore just medical. I have a whole range of different modalities that I've used in my healing journey. So I know I listen and I try to look. Now, even if we do something with the pain, sometimes it doesn't go away. So I'm not afraid. If it doesn't go away, I'm more relaxed in the sense that sometimes it takes time, or sometimes I haven't found the right solution to that particular pain. But I don't ignore pain anymore. but it's also not to say we're weak. The way I look at it is my body is my tool. I'm God's instrument, so my body is my tool. It's the instrument. Now, if I take care of my scissors and my knives and all my other instruments by sharpening them and keeping them well, the same way with my body, I take care of my body because it's my instrument as well. If I'm not well, I won't be able to help others. I won't be able to do what I'm meant to do. So that's how I look at it now. It's more, I feel like it's more of a, yeah, I've learned how to look at it in a better way. It's a more understanding way of my body and how to help it and take care of it.
You're less startled of it.
Yes.
Less panicking about it.
Yeah, well, I was never panicky about it because of my medical background. In fact, sometimes I'd be more stoic and ignore the pain and just go, oh, that's nothing. It was more like that. But now I found a nice balance of I don't ignore the pain. I look at the pain and see if I can do something about it. Yeah, because before I wouldn't, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until, yeah, it's a bigger issue.
It wanted your attention.
Yes, yes.
So, Dina, if someone is listening to you now and he's seeing you and he's in pain and a chronic condition, whether it's asthma, Hashimoto, insomnia, or any other chronic condition, and he's in despair, what would you tell him? What would be your best advice?
My advice would be the same one that I tell my clients. There's 3 things that we need to look at initially when there's something wrong with our health. It's the 3 things that your cells need. Your cells need nutrition, so you look at your food choices. Your cells need a good environment. Epigenetics is a new science coming up that your genes express themselves depending on the environment. Now, stress causes that environment of your cell to be it's not good for the health. It's going to cause disease when you're under stress because you've got cortisol, adrenaline, and so the environment of your cell is unhealthy. So managing that stress was my next journey. After Buteco and after the food, then the next one was to manage my stress. So those 2 plus the third is your cells need oxygen, which means you need to breathe well. So I've done that. So I did the diet. I did that without me knowing it. It's only now that I'm a Buteco practitioner that I share it with my clients in an organized way. But what I didn't know in my journey was I fixed my diet. And then I fix my oxygen, by breathing so that I'm more efficient in breathing and delivering the oxygen. And then the third was managing the stress. So I also went through a lot of other modalities to help me with that. So
even after, and they are intertwined because if oxygen and stress levels and also the assimilation of food coming from the intestines, they are all connected. And if you had to, and when you were talking, I was curious which one of them is the most basic. Like, is it the oxygen thing? Because oxygen is the vehicle that carries this body, or is it the stress? Maybe it's underlying the breathing because when you are in stress, you don't breathe well. I think that, I think that it's a question, but as I see it, and tell me your opinion about it, I think that the stress, and as you called it, the mindset, is the one that originates the breathing and the diet too, because it's not about diet, it's about absorption and assimilation.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not only of what you eat, but how much of it do you absorb. And I would say the mindset is really at the very bottom, the very basic, because the mindset prepares the terrain of your body.
Yeah,
You know, it
exactly.
prepares to be able to absorb things, to be able to, and you know, breathe well. That's the thing that makes you breathe poorly, and then it becomes a habit, and so now you need to do buteyko in order to fix that breathing habit.
Yeah.
But yes, mindset I'd say would be the very, and that was the last thing I did, and that's how I realized that that was so. And mindset forms from childhood. You know, all our childhood experiences are
Con, con,
contribute
yeah, they
contribute
consider
to that. Yes.
they create our pathways in the brain, the neural
Yes.
pathways, how we grasp the world, how we respond to it,
And yeah, I had to work on that next, and until you know you're not reactive anymore, you don't feel wound up anymore, and
but
you're not.
isn't it the hardest work to do, to change the program in our brain?
Yeah. It is well, with help I think it's doable, it's very possible, and I'm surprised now at how much I have improved in that aspect. But I suppose we all need to find the modality that works for us in that aspect. And in my case, hypnotherapy helped me in the beginning. I had a doctor friend who does hypnotherapy, and she helped me with that in the beginning. And then from now on, because it's like your nervous system needs to just calm down, and you need to upgrade, calm down, and then upgrade it. It's like you need to have a nervous system that can handle what you're going through.
So
And so you need to up.
this leads me to the last question, which is, and you were a medical student, and you are an expert to the Buteyko method, and you are dealing with the healing process with your clients. So you probably know that the parasympathetic branch of the autonomous nervous system is crucial,
Yes,
is the very basis of the healing process. So
definitely.
what is your best advice how to cultivate a sense of safety? Because, you know, many times it's a vicious cycle. Many times people with a chronic condition, it started because of unease in the psyche, a sense of
Yes.
I am not safe, the world is
Correct.
a hostile place. And when the
Correct.
condition comes, it perpetuates that this kind of thoughts are perpetuating, and they are growing and expanding because now you feel even more frightened, more panicked, more terrified of living, of your existence. So what is the advice that you give? What do you do for yourself to cultivate a sense of I am safe, safety?
I think what happened to me was ideal, because first what I did was do the buteyko, right? When you breathe properly, your CO2 levels in the blood, carbon dioxide in the blood, are at optimal levels. We need CO2 in the blood. Most people who hyperventilate have very low CO2. Now, CO2 helps to calm your nervous system. We need that. So when you breathe well, it calms your nervous system because you've got good levels of CO2. So remember, you've got your hardware and your software. Yes. Software is the memories and the trauma and everything. But you need to have hardware that is ready to process the things that are in our head. So when you have good levels of CO2 and your nervous system calms down because of that, then it's going to help. Now, for some people, they might need more. In my case, that help. Oh, also, because when you do breathing exercises, when you meditate, your amygdala, so the fear center and the memory center of your brain, they sync because of the exercises that you do. They sync up, and that will also help process some of the trauma, and without you having to recall it. But for some people, you need more than that. And just to share what my journey was in that area of the healing. So I did the hypnotherapy, and then I found homeopathy, which aside from helping you physically with, let's say, if you have a cough or this or that, it also goes deep down into emotions and trauma and everything like that.
It is working on the psyche, not only on the body.
Yes, exactly. And then I came across network spinal analysis. So I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No, what is that?
So they're chiropractors who trained more years to do, and this time they don't do the cracking or the chiropractic, which I'm happy because I don't like cracking.
Yeah.
They just do soft touches on your spine, and in so doing, what they're trying to do is to get your spinal, your nervous system calm down, and it upgrades your spinal. It's the way he explained it to me is this: if you're like an iOS, if you're in Apple 10, I don't even know where we're up to now, there will be things that you cannot do if they're already in Apple 15, is it? So there will be applications that you cannot do at this lower level of the system, which the upper level of the system can do. So a lot of the stress is when our nervous system is stuck in the lower level of the system, and then we're expecting it to perform at this level. And so part of that is to help it calm down and reorganize to go up to the higher level. And I find it, so those two things I still do. So how I maintain my health now is with the Buteyko exercises, but very minimal of that because I've learned how to do it now automatically, and homeopathy as needed whenever, if ever there's anything, and then the NSA as needed as well. So those are the three things that I still do now, just to
let's go to Buteyko again, because you are an expert to Buteyko method.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask you last question. Dr. Artur Akimov, he says that you can heal with Buteyko. And I think also Dr. Konstantin Buteyko, he mentioned a long list of medical conditions that can be helped, that can be healed with this method.
Yes.
Including arthritis, including Dupuytren, including all kinds of fascia issues. I mean, it's not just about asthma and breathing and COPD. It's much. So I'm interested, what is your take from your experience? Have you seen people that healed from conditions which do not relate to the respiratory system?
Nervous, anxiety, panic attacks, anxiety, panic attacks, and usually chronic fatigue, things like that. So autoimmune conditions. The thing with Buteyko though is the person, yes, I believe that we can heal all those things with the breathing, but the person must want it, because it's a process. So it's a program, and it's an intense program if they want to get to that stage. So there's many ways of getting to that stage. If they want to do pure Buteyko, yes, they can do it that way and reach that stage, but it's really rigorous. Now, we must remember that Buteyko lived in Russia in the 1950s, and at that time, they were very used to being told what to do. You do this, and they will not say no. The Western world these days, it's so hard to do that with people because they're very busy, they're very distracted. And so the focus is not the same. Dr. Buteyko had a lot of success with it because the people that he was helping really put their heart and soul into it, and they were very obedient. They were
disciplined, much more
disciplined. That's the word. Yes, they're very disciplined, and they're used to being told what to do and to do what they're told to do. And so yes, you can.
So, you
definitely
know,
can.
when you're talking about healing respiratory and also anxiety, chronic fatigue, depression, it is all related to breathing. So this is very,
Yes.
very intuitive to understand. But what about skeletal issues or muscle issues, fibromyalgia,
Yes. Yes.
autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis?
Well, if you think about it, inflammation, which is a cause of all chronic illness. Well, when you have good CO2 levels, your mast cells, which contains histamine
Yes,
inside,
yes,
they're more stable. They're more stable with good CO2 levels. When the CO2 levels in the blood are low because you're hyperventilating, they degranulate quite easily and release the histamine. The
yeah.
result is you've got chronic inflammation everywhere in the body because your mast cells are unstable, and that will now be the start of all these, fibromyalgia and all these things. Now, get your CO2 levels to optimal levels. Your mast cells will be good and stable. They will not release histamine unless necessary, which is for repair and all these things. Plus, also, when you breathe well, that means you're delivering oxygen very well. You're opening up circulation. You're opening up the circulation very well, efficiently. So you can imagine that your body as a system will be working more efficiently. It's receiving the oxygen. Your brain will be working optimally, so sending the right messages to the different organ systems. And so when you have that optimally working system, because it's well oxygenated, well, and well, its circulation is doing very well, then
It's fascinating because what you are saying, it doesn't only dilate the brachial or the trachea and all the little channels in the lungs, but it also dilates the blood vessels. Maybe the lymph system is more expanded.
Yes.
There is a sensation of expansion in the body. This is what you're saying?
Yes, because CO2 relaxes smooth muscles, and smooth muscles are around all your tubes in the body, the airway, the blood vessels. So when it's relaxed, so it opens up, so it goes, blood goes everywhere, air goes wherever. And with the lymph also, when you're breathing well, your diaphragm moves very well, efficiently, and the diaphragm is the pump for your lymphatic system. It's the heart, because there's no pump for the lymphatic system. You need your diaphragm in order to be able to pump the lymphatic system. So when you're breathing well and you're using your diaphragm very well, then your detox, because your lymphatic system is doing well, is efficient. So
Dina, I love this talk with you because I think we are delving deeper and deeper to we are looking deeper for the root cause and the modality which can treat the root issue.
Yes.
Because I'll give you an example. I was introduced during these interviews to a new method, not so new actually, but not very well known, of how the posture of the body affects our health. And this is very logical, because if your shape, if your physics, like if your diaphragm is not in place, and
it will not,
because you have more tonus on the right side than on the left side, and so it's all entangled.
it's all interrelated.
Interrelated? Because what is the chicken? What is the egg? Is the posture causing the diaphragm not to function well, or is it the diaphragm that causes the ribs and the more solid organs around it to misbehave?
Do you know that the diaphragm is a postural muscle as well? So in other words, people who don't use their diaphragm and their diaphragm is so not toned, then they find they slouch more because the diaphragm is not toned. And as they breathe better, because the diaphragm is a postural muscle, they find it easier to have good posture. So that's the other
You
thing.
bring me to another question now, because you know the diaphragm in the left side, if you look at anatomy books, is very, very small and tiny, and it is not
So
massive
the hat.
as the right one. And you're very right that not only the diaphragm, also the lungs, they can mold the shape of the spine. If you are erect or hunched or scoliotic. It has a say too. So my question, last question, is that the Buteyko method is actually interfering with a very natural function, which is breathing, which should be oblivious to it, which we should be not oblivious, but
it should be automatic.
Automatic, and we should be almost unconscious to it. It is like it should be transparent to us, not something that we work on. So that I was always curious about this question, because you know, in yoga practice, when they do the pranayama, they also interfere sometimes very aggressively with the natural, God-given, this precious thing which is called breathing, which is the vehicle of life, actually. So
that is a very good question.
And with the Buteyko, it is also a very strong intervention, no? You don't. No. So
Buteyko will help you get your day-to-day breathing back on track. So actually, Buteyko is more of getting your breathing back to where it should be, your day-to-day breathing. Unlike the pranayama and oigo, these are not normal breathing patterns, right? They're not normal breathing patterns. So after you do the exercise, how will your body breathe if it doesn't know where to go back to? So what Buteyko does is it teaches your body to get to the healthy breathing pattern. And so one is the biomechanical, which is on the diaphragm, you know, through the nose and all these mechanical aspects of breathing. So you teach your body how to get it back there. And then the second one is biochemical, which means when your CO2 levels are good, your brain detects CO2 in order to regulate your breathing. If there's too much CO2, it tells you to breathe faster and breathe bigger so that it will go back down. You know, you blow off the CO2 and go back to your healthy level. If there's too little CO2 in the blood, it tells you, oh, breathe calmer, breathe gentler, so that it goes back up. So you keep some of the CO2 in. So that's how your brain regulates your breathing. So Buteyko will help you get your brain tolerate CO2 at the healthy level. So but the method helps you do it in a way that you're not thinking about it. So the funny thing is, we're helping you breathe better, but we don't want you to think about your breathing. Because when you think about your breathing, you're using your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, which is not the boss. That's not the boss of your breathing. The boss of your breathing is your medulla, which is in the automatic,
the stem of the book.
Yeah, which is in the automatic part of your brain. So when I teach my clients, we have ways of doing this that we don't use our thinking brain. We allow your body to breathe. So it's more of allowing yourself. We guide it. It's like guiding a little child, you know, you guide it, but you're not pushing it.
But Dina, when you practice the Buteyko, you do use the prefrontal cortex. No, you tell yourself to stop. You tell yourself to you have to be very much aware what is happening, and when to start breathing, when to stop breathing. Am I?
No. So there are parts of the exercise when, in order to increase your CO2, you need to hold your breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to hold your breath, and depending on your medical condition, the length of the breath hold depends on that. And then, but the crux of the whole exercise is what we call the reduced breathing, which is you sit still and allow your breathing. You relax and you allow your body to breathe. See, allow your body to breathe. You're not telling yourself, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. You're not. You're just sitting there. That's the most important part of the Buteyko method, which is the reduced breathing of just sitting and breathing. But there's a technique on how to do it so that you're not doing it using your prefrontal cortex. You're not telling yourself to breathe. And that's where people get tripped up, because they control their breathing. When they try to control their breathing, it's, yeah,
You even call it control pause. The CP.
Yes. Yeah, I know that's not a good, but actually the CP, control pause, I don't know why they said it control pause, but you're just waiting. So you hold your breath, you're waiting for your brain to tell you you need to take your next breath. So this is when you hold your breath, your CO2 levels in the blood rise. If this is your CO2 tolerance, when your CO2 reaches your tolerance level, your brain will tell you now you need to breathe. You're just waiting for that. So you're not pushing beyond that in the control pause. You're just waiting, listening to your body. When is my brain going to tell me to breathe again? And then you release.
So there has to be a comfortable allow.
Yes, the key word is to allow your body to breathe. You're listening to your body. There are certain moments in times in Buteyko where you need to push beyond that. But again, that's not some people do that depending on their medical condition. Some people don't. It's more, and there's a purpose to it, to increase the CO2 levels. But really, it's more of allowing your body to breathe with the reduced breathing.
So it's a lot about how to interpret the interpretation of the method, because now I see that there are so many ways to approach it.
Yes, well, I should tell you, even within Buteyko practitioners, there are those who believe that you need to push the body, push and maximum pause and this and that. You need to maybe have a clearing reaction.
Like to strive, they are striving and aspiring.
Yes, so they believe that that's what is good. My training is on the other, other side, which is we are supporting the body, assisting the body. We don't need to push the body to reach that point, because we get results even with this mild one, and I'm sure the milder the better for the body. So that's how I practice Buteyko.
Because then you have less stress.
Exactly. So the downside to that is that some clients become so blessed, complacent. Some complacent, but what I do, part of what I do with my clients is the coaching aspect of it, which is, okay, let's do as much as we can with the breathing, and I encourage them to do it this way. Now, whatever we don't attain with the breathing because of their compliance, because I tell them you can totally fix this with just the breathing, depending on how much you're willing to comply. Whatever they're not able to comply, I direct them. There are other things that you can do. Let's see what suits you. Because the same with me, I realize each person will have a different healing journey. Whatever, they feel right, what is right for them. And you will know it instinctively. Your body will recognize it. That's what I need. And so I gently just say, okay, you can do this or this. After we do the breathing course, we get to a certain point, and then I go, okay, what else? What else is there? What else can you do? And yes, and it's always their choice.
I like that. Wow, Dina, thank you. This was fascinating. Thank you so much for the wisdom that you shared with us, your insights, and of course, your personal journey. And I wish you best of joy and health.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.